RJ Sheedy. Daniel Fishman. Darlene Elias. And John Teehan. And now, the man who's just doing it safely, Milford TV's very own RJ Sheedy!
Hey, hey! Hey, hey! Wow! Hello! Woohoo! Okay. Hey, hey! Welcome to... Okay, that was great. Welcome to Talk Show, everybody. I'm your host, TV's RJ Sheedy. How's everybody doing tonight? Good! Yeah? Got excited for the show? Yeah! You know, it's almost the end of summer, I know, but I'm still gonna complain. It's hot. It's so hot outside. Isn't it brutal?
How hot is it?
It's so hot that Miley Cyrus's dad told her to put on more clothes. That's incredible. Oh my God. Is Miley Cyrus still popular? Or am I like really dating myself? Because I'm like, was in high school in 2013. I don't know if she's still cool or not. Wow, I'm old. But hey, the summer's almost over. So that means we all have to give up on the day drinking by the pool. Oh, it's so sad. Has anyone been watching the Olympics at all? Anyone been watching the Olympics? Yeah, crazy.
Basketball.
What's that?
Basketball.
You've been watching basketball?
Women's basketball.
They have a good team for the U.S. I don't even know if the U.S. is in that team, honestly. I don't know. But hey, crazy things been happening there. The swimming pool turned swamp green. That was pretty gross. Ew. Golf is being featured for the first time in over 100 years. Did you guys know that? Yeah. And I don't know if you saw this. And a Japanese pole vaulter almost lost his penis. Yeah. Do you guys know about this? No. Okay. So I'm just going to play the video. Take a look at this, please. This Japanese pole vaulter. Okay, there he is. He's coming down. His leg grazes it. And, oh! Boing! La, 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 la. Okay, let's show that one more time. Let's show it one more time. Over it, he knocks it down with his leg, and his junk gets in the way. Ow! Whew. Yeah, pretty painful. But hey, don't worry about him. He's fine. But his girlfriend's a little embarrassed, though. And he looks a little too, it looks like, so, I don't know. But you know, pole vaulting is a cool sport. Donald Trump's been watching the Mexican pole vaulters all week to see how high they can go. So there's that. Get it? Because of the wall. And who's paying for that wall, everybody? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I don't know if everyone knows. Does everyone know Malcolm? Who knows Malcolm? Malcolm's the elevator, yeah. You know, Malcolm's really excited this week because he has a new toy to play with. We got this thing called a glide camera, and it's really fancy. Malcolm can do anything he wants with it. He can just glide around, do whatever he wants. Malcolm, how do you like the thing? You know, Malcolm does a lot of work for the show. I don't know if you guys know this. And we were hanging out yesterday, and I don't know about you guys, but like typical white trash suburban, I love Snapchat. Who loves Snapchat? Who knows what Snapchat is? How about that? Who knows about it? Okay, anyways, why is the camera still on Malcolm? Hey, Malcolm. Okay, there it is. There's the star. Okay. But yeah, so, thank you. But yeah, so we Snapchat as typical white folk. And anyways, I took this video of Malcolm Snapchatting. So can we see the video of him like actually sending a Snapchat? And that's that, okay? Now, when I sent him that, the minute I sent it off, I got a Snapchat from him, and he says, disregard that Snapchat I sent him. Can we see the Snapchat that Malcolm accidentally sent me, please? It's frozen, okay. Well, does everyone know the dog filter with the tongue where it's like, Yeah. He sent me that, and he goes, what you doing tonight? Definitely not for me. No. Yeah? That's your son, Michelle. That's your son. Thanks, Michelle. You know, we're in the summer, a lot of things going on, but you know, this is still in election years. Have you guys been paying attention to all of what's been happening? Oh yeah. You know, I can't even begin to summarize the craziness in just a few short minutes. So I'll just sum the entire election cycle up as this. Ah! Oh my God. Okay, so in a little bit on the show, we'll be talking about your third-party candidate options with the Green Party. Oh, I'll tell you about that in a second. The crew knows. And the Libertarian Party. But it really surprises me how little people know about them. So we sent a small camera crew out to the streets of Milford to see if anybody knows about the third-party candidates and just to see what people's general reactions are to the three main candidates. Let's take a look at this.
Who are you going to vote for this year, do you think?
Trump change.
And why are you going to vote for Trump change?
Because I like what he's about. He's a funny guy.
What do you think he's all about?
Getting rid of the immigrants.
Yeah? Which is your least favorite Arab immigrant?
The Ecuadorians, I guess.
Do you think we should get rid of, like, the Irish as well?
No.
No?
There's some great alcoholics.
What's your favorite thing about the Irish?
I don't know. Corned beef?
Who is your least favorite candidate for this year?
Hillary Clinton.
And why is that?
Because she's a bitch.
What makes her such a bitch?
I don't really know.
She couldn't even pleasure her husband. Her husband had to go out and cheat. How's she gonna pleasure this country?
That's so true. It's almost like she's getting better at cheating than him.
Oh.
Who out of these nominees is your favorite candidate?
Ben Carson or Donald Trump?
Why do you like Ben Carson?
He knows what he's doing and he's not a liar.
About Donald Trump?
He knows what he's doing and he's not a liar.
All right.
Who do you think you'll be voting for come this year?
Well, I know for sure I'm voting for the Democrats, for Hillary Clinton.
And why is that?
Well, because I think she'll make a much better president than Mr. Trump, because he's a big, bombastic buffoon who knows nothing about government or nothing about anything, to be a matter of fact. He knows how to insult people very well.
Have you heard of a candidate known as Gary Johnson?
I've heard of the Libertarian candidate, Gary Johnson, and also his running mate, who used to be the governor here in Massachusetts, Mr. Weld. But, you know, voting for a third-party candidate is not really worthwhile in this country because they can't really carry enough electoral votes to do anything. So by voting for him, you're really voting against Hillary because that's giving another vote away to nowhere. And she needs all the votes she can get. Of course, here in Massachusetts, she's going to carry the state by probably 35 points. So it doesn't really matter whether I vote for her or not, but I'm a Democrat through and through.
If you could say one thing to Mr. Trump, what would it be?
Mr. Trump, why don't you just go home and go back to your business, which you know well, go build some buildings and steal from the people that work for you, instead of trying to steal from the general American public.
Now, would you vote for this guy over Bernie?
No.
See, I was afraid that Bernie would just crumble to dust in office. Did you have a similar fear?
Yeah, he might have dropped dead from a heart attack or something.
Okay, thank you. Have you heard of Gary Johnson?
I have not.
I think you might like his campaign slogan. His campaign slogan is #FeelTheJohnson. Do you think you could feel the Johnson if it came time?
I don't know if I want to feel his Johnson. So
You don't want Johnson's Johnson, are you sure?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen.
What's he about?
He believes that gay married men should be able to protect their marijuana fields with fully automatic machine guns.
Really?
Kind of hard to argue with something like that, right?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
So, do you still think that if the time comes, you won't be able to feel the Johnson?
I might be able to feel the Johnson.
Feel the Johnson, baby. Come on. Come on. Bump me. Let's go.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Wow. Amazing. Thanks for taking care of that and putting that together. My brother Matthew Sheedy and Malcolm Zale. Give it up for them. Oh my God. Without the two of them, this show would be crap. I'll admit it right now. They're the real stars. All of you, the crew. Give it up for the crew, guys. Come on. We have a great show for you tonight. The regional director of the Johnson Weld Campaign, Daniel Fishman, will be here. Everybody, Daniel Fishman. Right now, my teleprompter wants me to tell you that Danielle Elias, the former co-chair for the Massachusetts Green Party, will be here. There's a problem. She's in Milford, New Hampshire right now. I'm not even kidding. She drove to Milford, New Hampshire. So she called. She said, I think I'm in New Hampshire. I'm like, are you sure? How'd you? What? So I'm sorry. She's not here. We're going to talk a little bit about Jill Stein, but, you know, you're just going to get the basics from me. I don't know much about her. And finally, our good friend John Teehan, the host of All Politics is Local, is here with us as well. John Teehan, everybody, a fellow Milford TV host is in the house. So ladies and gentlemen, don't touch that dial and don't go anywhere because we'll be right back with more talk show. Everyone, stay tuned. Thank you.
Tonight's talk show with RJ Sheedy is brought to you by the fine folks over there at Pizza Palace. Thanks, guys.
All right. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Welcome back. Okay, cool. Gotta wait for that music to be off. Let's talk about this year's election. Both candidates offered by the two major parties are arguably the most polarizing candidates in history. Not only that, they're the most unlike candidates ever brought to the political stage, which has voters taking a look at what other options they have, as voting for the lesser of two evils doesn't seem appealing to many people. If you're interested in voting with your conscience, then maybe, just maybe, you should consider supporting a third party. Yeah, third parties exist, but you never really hear about them that much in the media anyways, or anywhere really, with Clinton and Trump dominating the news every day. So the media thinks of third parties as a joke. Okay, but what about pop culture? What do they say about them?
Take a good look at your beloved candidates. They're nothing but hideous space reptiles. It's true. We are aliens. But what are you going to do about it? It's a two-party system. You have to vote for one of us.
He's right. This is a two-party system.
Well, I believe I'll vote for a third-party candidate.
Go ahead. Throw your vote away.
Sure, another year a third-party candidate may not get anywhere. Their names may not even end up in the polls. The last time a third-party candidate was even featured in the polls was Ross Perot in 1996. And the last time a third-party candidate won any electoral votes was in 1968 with George Wallace. And the last time a third-party candidate won the presidency was Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, he was a third-party candidate back then. Honest Dave, I'm sorry for what the orange orangutan is doing to your party. Although this year's quite different. Meet Gary Johnson and Jill Stein. Gary is running for president with Bill Weld on the Libertarian ticket, and Jill is running for the Green Party ticket. Let's start with Johnson. Who is Gary Johnson? Who is he?
Google Gary Johnson. This is really objective. Just Google it.
Google! That's right. Why didn't I think of that? Let's see what pops up on Google when I Google Johnson. I'm just getting a bunch of penises. Ugh. All kidding aside, Johnson is the former two-term Republican governor of New Mexico who was elected in a 2-to-1 blue state. His running mate, Bill Weld, was the former two-term governor of Massachusetts, who, by the way, only lost 6 towns in the state during his re-election in 1994. 6 towns, the bluest state in the world. He lost by only 6 towns. It's incredible. While in office, Johnson vetoed wasteful spending 715 times, cut taxes 14 times, and left the state with new bridges, schools, and hospitals without raising taxes by a penny. Bill Weld did the same here. Gary Johnson supports marriage equality. He supports implementing 2-term limits. He wants to write intelligent immigration reform. He's pro-choice, and he wants to legalize weed. Thank you. He sounds like my guy. I don't know. Him and Bill Weld think that the government should stay out of your pocketbooks and out of your bedrooms. And honestly, it doesn't really get much freer than that, does it? This is all good and well, sure. And maybe the Governor Johnson is the sanest candidate being offered to us from the top 3 contenders. Unfortunately, you can't win the championship if you don't play in the Super Bowl. Gary's Super Bowl is the presidential debates. No candidate can win the presidential election if they are not featured in the primetime debates. To qualify in them, Governor Johnson needs 15% support in the polls by mid-September. Right now, he's polling about as high as 12% in some of the polls. Could Gary Johnson get to 15% by mid-September? Possibly. It's not impossible. It's difficult, but not impossible. If he's polling at 12% in some polls, all he needs is a crucial 3 percentage points or so. And how do you get there? How do you get to 15% by mid-September? Most people would say you need some serious campaign cash in the bank to get anywhere in this race. Well, this week, the Johnson Weld Campaign held a 15 for 15 money bomb fundraiser on their website. The idea was that on August 15th, he wanted supporters to chip in $15 each to try and raise $1.5 million to help Gary get to 15%. The fundraiser was a success, raising almost $1.8 million, and I should probably tell you, he rose almost $3 million this month. $3 million, that's a lot of money. $3 million, clap at $3 million, please. It's $3 million. Anyways, to talk to us more about the Libertarian Party, please welcome the Regional Director for the Johnson Weld Campaign, Mr. Daniel Fishman. Come on out, Dan. Hey, Dan, welcome. Great to see you. Come on over and take a seat.
Thanks.
Welcome to the show, my friend. Okay, so you are, as I said, you are the campaign manager for this region for the Johnson Weld.
For New England.
For New England, correct. So a lot of people, perhaps just this election cycle, are hearing the word libertarian for the first time. What are libertarians?
Libertarians have the idea that you should have as much freedom in your personal life as you can handle, as long as you're not impacting somebody else's liberty. So we have two fundamental principles. One is called the non-aggression principle. We think that it's very important that you not use force against another person unless you have to defend yourself. And we apply that to everything. So if you think about taxation, libertarians say, why do you pay taxes? So you can have good roads, so you can have good schools, or do you pay taxes because if you didn't, they'd throw you in jail? Because taxes are collected by force. We want to minimize the amount of force in our society so that everybody can have as much liberty to live their lives as they would choose to. The other core principle for libertarians is self-ownership. The idea that you own your body and nobody else should be able to take the product of your labor, force you to inject something into your body, force you to live your life in a certain way. You own yourself, and that's a fundamental principle. And those two things define libertarianism.
Okay, so let's go through a quick checklist real quick on libertarians. For or against marijuana?
We believe that you ought to be able to do whatever you want. So it's not a question of for or against. We believe that there should be no laws restricting you from engaging in activity that doesn't hurt anybody.
Okay, so you also said that you guys are for doing whatever you want to your bodies. Are you guys pro-abortion, pro-against, for?
In our platform, it says that we recognize that it's such an incredibly divisive issue for the country that we don't think government should be involved. You know, I think Ron Paul put it best when he said, we will never solve the issue of abortion through laws. We'll only solve it through the character and the content of our character. We agree with that. We don't want government to be involved in abortion.
Okay, now Gary, what about the Department of Education? I've heard some libertarians say that they want to get rid of the whole thing and get rid of the IRS.
Well, a great example of the Department of Education is that it's running out of Washington. So Massachusetts has the best schools in the country. If Massachusetts were its own country, we would be number 6 in the world in education.
We're pretty smart here.
We're
pretty smart.
Well, so now I say this, and I'm a little bit biased. I'm a former teacher in Massachusetts. I was a special education teacher. And it's because of what we've done here in Massachusetts, the way that we have trained our teachers, our excellent education programs. So when we talk about the idea that Washington is going to lead our educational program, I don't like that idea at all. When you talk about that they want to institute a system called Common Core, which would mean that the same standards would be applied to the state of Mississippi as applied to the state of Massachusetts, I don't like that idea. I like the fact that our standards are nice and high, and we have to work hard to meet them. I don't want to see a standard come in that is anything less than excellent.
Okay, that sounds all right. Now, I talked about it a little bit. Tell me in your own words, who is Gary Johnson?
Gary Johnson, as you said, is a 2-term governor of New Mexico, and he was elected, his re-election happened after he'd been elected the first time in a state that's 2-to-1 Democrat. So he was overwhelmingly popular across the aisle because his ideas weren't really right and they weren't really left. They were personal liberty. And Gary Johnson is a candidate who embodies that. He's about what we all can be, achieving our potential, living our lives with the minimum interference from government. Of course, you know, he's well known as a fitness guy. He climbed Mount Everest. He's actually summited the top 7 peaks, one in on each continent. He's also a guy who I've had the privilege to meet, and he is genuinely interested in people. So he doesn't come from a pedigreed background. He's not, you know, the imperial Clinton presidency that has been, you know, running for office for, you know, how many years. We just did an interesting study, said, how long has it been since neither a Bush nor a Clinton was running for an open seat? You actually have to go all the way back to 1972. 1980, George Bush Sr., 1988, George Bush Sr., et cetera, et cetera. So Gary Johnson doesn't have this political pedigree. He's a candidate of the people. And that makes him very, very different. But he's also governed, right? He was elected as a governor. And so because of the fact that he has actually governed and run a state, he understands that the executive of a state has to make decisions that affect everybody's lives. And so when you make those decisions, you need a person who has the capacity to judge all the facts and to act rationally and to act calmly and impartially. You need somebody who doesn't go in and say, immediately, you're all fired. You need somebody who can come in and say, you know what, let's think about what our solutions are. Let's react calmly. Gary Johnson is first and foremost a calm and considered thinker who wants to represent you and me.
Okay, so he's not one of the top 2 candidates, but he is polling in 3rd place right now. How do you convince people to vote for him when there's many people saying that a vote for a third party is a wasted vote?
Well, I fully expect that there's probably about a 5-point bounce in Massachusetts after we've done this show. I know the impact of the...
There we go. You know the impact of our Milford audience.
Exactly
it's the
right.
Sheedy impact, yes.
Exactly right.
Yes.
But one of the most important things to talk about is that there is no such thing as a wasted vote unless you're voting for a candidate that you don't believe in, because all the votes get counted. So even if I vote for, you know, Sam Spade as a write-in candidate, somebody somewhere is going to say, look, how did Sam Spade get this one vote? What do I have to do to get that candidate's vote? So if you vote for Jill Stein or you vote for Gary Johnson or you vote for anybody who doesn't win, your vote is still counted. And somebody's saying, well, how do I get that vote next time? So the worst thing you could do is if you don't like Hillary, but you think you have to vote for her, if you vote for her, in the future the Democrats are going to say, well, all that stuff we worried about Bernie Sanders, we don't have to worry about that. Those people fall in line. They vote for us no matter what. We own their vote. And so if you vote for a candidate who you don't really believe in, you're telling them, yeah, you do own my vote.
Wow, that's some powerful stuff, that really is. Now, you ran for a Congress seat a few years ago.
I did, 2012.
In 2012. And you went on Howie Carr's show, and it got played back a lot on the web.
Yep.
And I remember this, because you sent it to me, and I had to listen to it, and it was great. You had a very angry lady call in and basically blaming you for throwing the election to the Democrat in the race because she was supporting Richard to stay in that race.
Yep.
Talk to me a little bit about that. Do you think that people might accuse the Gary Johnson campaign of pulling votes away from Trump or Clinton?
I don't think so because, I mean, the core of libertarianism, you know, we talked about the non-aggression principle, we talked about self-ownership, but so we are fiscally conservative. In fact, we're fiscally more conservative than the Republican Party.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The Republican Party is not particularly fiscally conservative. They just don't want to spend money on social programs, but they're happy to spend money on any defense contract that comes through. They're happy to spend money on crony capitalism, right? Common Core is nothing more than crony capitalism, essentially a way to pay some educational companies a lot of money with money that they've collected in taxes.
Is that really all that is? Is that like, let's say we have a big company like McGraw-Hill, that's a big education company.
Or Pearson.
Or Pearson.
They're
Are
the
they
ones
just
behind Common Core?
Okay.
Yeah. So Common Core would actually be the large.
Can I tell you, in math class in college,
Yep.
we used a Pearson program. I hate Pearson, so I'm listening very well to you right now.
Pearson is the dominant company behind Common Core. One of the most important things that will happen is this thing called the readiness test, and they're going to put it online. It actually will be the largest computer contract in the history of the world. Every student in the United States will be tested every year online through this system. That's a lot of money, okay? And the government is going to end up spending that money. So I don't know whether or not the value of that is worthwhile, but I want the people to make the decisions locally. I don't want it to be made in Washington. So Republicans, you know, and Democrats, the people who have lined up behind Common Core, are fundamentally about crony capitalism, the idea that government is picking winners in the marketplace by saying, okay, we're going to support this program and we're going to require it to pay, you know, $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Libertarians are more fiscally conservative than Republicans because our question about whether or not we pay for something is this something that government should actually be paying for?
So what do you think are the guidelines for something that government should be paying for?
So
what are their responsibilities? Because you guys are all about limited government, and I kind of get behind that, but I just don't know what you guys considered important and versus just a waste of money.
So fundamentally, we should have a strong national defense. We believe that that is critical to defending our liberty. That's something that works for all of us. However, we believe there's an enormous difference between national defense and national offense. So although we're in favor of keeping ourselves safe, we're not convinced that 283 bases around the world makes a lot of sense for the United States at this point in time. Okay. You know, we have giant bases in Saudi Arabia. We have giant bases in Germany. Those bases cost us a fortune. The question is, do we really need to be concerned about that? Do we need to be spending money overseas when honestly, we could take a fraction of that money and fund so many things, right? In terms of programs like Social Security, okay? Libertarians, we believe very strongly in contracts. So everybody who's paid into Social Security, we insist that you get paid back because you made a contract with the federal government. But going forward, one of the things that we don't like about the way Social Security works is that the government just takes the money that you pay into Social Security and spends it
on themselves.
Exactly. So there actually is not, you know, this famous thing you won't remember, but some people in the audience might remember. George Bush and Al Gore had a debate, and they talked about the lockbox. The idea that when you put money into Social Security, it's going to be there for you to take out. But it's actually not. You pay money into Social Security, Congress spends it, and then what they take out of taxes, they pay out Social Security benefits. And that system is failing. I mean, it's a pyramid scheme, and we know that it can't work. So one of the things that libertarians want to say is, like, as we go forward in the future, let's recognize that this is a pyramid scheme, and let's stop before it breaks. Let's look at future generations and say, you know what? You can be responsible for your own retirement. You can look at safe plans, okay? You can have a 401k. You can have a retirement plan, something else, and your money can still be safe, but instead of trapping you into a Social Security system that depends on the government, because look at what happened in Detroit, right? When the city of Detroit went bankrupt, all the people there who had publicly backed pensions lost their retirement, okay? The way our government is spending money, the way our government is going, do you want to rely on them for your retirement?
The only thing that I say to that is that a lot of people lost their retirements and pensions when the market crashed.
Well,
and the government, am I wrong at all?
You are.
Am I? Okay.
You are.
All right, inform me.
Because the only way you lose money in the market is when you sell. So, for example, if you sold let's say you've been saving for your entire life, and you have $1 million saved up in the market. In 2008, the market drops down in half. If you sold everything at that point in time, yes, you only get $500,000 of what you got. But if you'd waited 2 months, it would be worth $600,000. And if you still had that $1 million in today, it's worth about $1.8 million because the market has gone up that much. The market always has swings. You said you studied math in school. You remember the sine curve?
Sure, let's go with sure,
right.
yeah.
So the market always has ups and downs, and generally it trends up. Over any 20-year period of time, the market has outperformed any other investment that you could look at, okay? You go back 20 years, the market was, I don't exactly know what the number is, but 20 years ago, the market was much lower than it is today.
Sure.
There are always ups and downs. When you invest in the market, and you invest over the lifetime of your work, you know, you're probably going to work about 40 years or so, 45 years. Over that period of time, the value returned on your investment is enormous, and it belongs to you. And you're the one who controls it. That's a much better feature than, and the other thing about it is that, you know, when we talk about retirement plans, pensions, all those things, you actually have an investment in an involvement in what's happening with your retirement plan. And that ends up being a significant amount of money, as opposed to people who are throwing their money into the Social Security system and government is spending it however. You actually have a fair bit of power as an investor. If your personal nest egg over the lifetime was $1 million, corporations notice that. They notice how you're investing your money. You actually have a much greater impact by having that investment and controlling it than as just being a person waiting for retirement and your Social Security check.
Okay. All right, let's pivot back to the candidates now. Let's say Gary Johnson gets 15% in the polls and he gets on the debate stage. Let's say he gets elected. What will his first 100 days in office, what could that look like?
You know, if I could, one thing about the election beforehand, you talked about getting 270 votes, electoral votes is what you need to win. But as you probably know, there's a strategy that doesn't involve getting 270 electoral votes.
Right, I believe it is if no one gets 270, the vote goes then to Congress.
Right.
And they vote for the vice president if after the 20th no one is elected.
So what happens is that if nobody gets 270 electoral votes, and there's 534, so if one state goes one way and the rest of the country is split,
so
nobody would get 270.
So what you're telling me, all Gary Johnson realistically needs to do is win one state, like New Mexico or somewhere.
It depends on, yeah, it depends on how the election goes. So let's say Trump and Hillary split evenly, and Gary wins Utah, and we're polling very high in Utah.
Yeah.
Gary wins Utah, and that prevents, and Hillary gets 268 votes, and Trump gets 266. Then the election goes through to the House, and there the House votes as states. And this is actually, they're not making all this stuff. This is written out in the 12th Amendment. The House votes, and they determine who the president is. And our belief is that the Democrats will understand that Hillary can never win in their vote. The Republicans are never going to vote for Hillary. But if 3 or 4 states were to say, well, we don't want to vote for Donald Trump, all the Democrats vote for Gary, 3 states vote for Gary, Gary Johnson's the next president of the United States. And that is a realistic scenario. And it's not just Utah that we think we can win. There are a lot of other states. We think that we are in the same place where Bernie was, and that our campaign is getting ready to catch fire. The difference is this time, we don't have to fight against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. We actually have the right to get the vote from everybody, and we just have to make people aware of the fact that their vote really counts. And a vote for Gary Johnson, even if Gary weren't to win, a vote for Gary Johnson sends a message to the Republicans and the Democrats: you don't own my vote.
Okay, this is such an impassioning plea you're making. I love it. I love it. So let's go back to his first 100 days.
So his first 100 days, chances are pretty good. Number one thing, he's limited to things that he can do, right? The executive only has certain powers. But one of the things he can do is he can immediately put marijuana to Schedule 0.
Now, will the DEA be okay with that? Because
they don't have an option. That is completely under the control of the executive.
So why hasn't Obama done it yet?
Well, you know,
is it a special interest with whatever could be?
It's for the same reason that candidate Obama in 2008 was against gay marriage, right? He has political allies that he is beholden to.
Oh, okay.
And so he's going to stick with that. You know, there's no question in my mind that they could legalize marijuana, but the federal government right now has a vested interest. You know, there's the whole civil asset forfeiture thing, where if you are found with a marijuana joint in your car, the police get to keep your car. Okay, that's...
Wait, my car or the joint?
The car.
Oh, shit. Do I lose the joint too?
You lose the joint too.
Darn.
But civil asset forfeiture is one of the really terrible things that's happening right now, and police departments have become dependent on that. Okay? I firmly believe that 99.99% of police officers are great, wonderful guys. When I was growing up, I learned to honor police officers, and I still feel that way. But we've set up a system where we're actually cutting some budgets and expecting police departments to make that up through civil asset forfeiture, through seizing property, through ticket quotas, through all these things that aren't really about law enforcement. They're about generating revenue. And that's where we've really betrayed our society, because our society is meant to have these law enforcement officers actually be peace officers. They're meant to keep the peace. And when we have them becoming toll takers and fine generators and all these other things, that diminishes police officers. I want to see a restoration of the police officer as this noble figure, these guys who stand up for what's right all the time, instead of being forced by small, trivial little laws that bureaucrats are making. That's really hurting our law enforcement community more than anything else we can do. And one of those trivial laws is the idea that a rational adult, in the privacy of their own home, should choose to smoke a joint. Okay? The last 3 presidents in the United States all admit that they've smoked marijuana. Now, an interesting thing about it is that if George Bush had been busted with a joint, you know his dad would have cleared it up, no problem. If Bill Clinton had been busted with a joint, smooth talking guy, he would have gotten out of it, no problem. If Barack Obama had been busted with a joint, he probably would have gone to jail because the drug laws are so unevenly enforced. One of the very best things we can do for our country immediately is to say, let's stop enforcing trivial laws. So the very first thing I'm sure that Gary would do is to dial back the restriction on marijuana, make it Schedule 0.
Okay.
I'm not talking about legalizing any other drugs. We're talking about marijuana, which I bet you that everybody in your audience, even if they don't smoke, if I said, I'll give you $1 million if you can get a joint for me in the next 2 hours, everybody could do it. So our prohibition is not working at this point in time.
You're right. You're absolutely right. It's been atrocious. The war on drugs is an absolute failure, and we just need to get out of it now.
Yep.
Yep, I can get behind that. Now, we're almost out of time. What else should our audience know about Gary Johnson and Bill Weld? What else do they need to know? What are we missing in this picture?
Well, one of the most important things is when you talk about having experience and bringing it to the legislature, Gary Johnson and Bill Weld both ran very successful states. And one of the things that they both realized was that government is not about imposing your will on the people. Government should not be about 51% of the people telling 49% of the people what to do. What we call that a tyranny of the majority. And that's wrong. Government is supposed to protect the rights of minorities. And what we need to realize is that you and I, we're all minorities of one. So I'm a weird kid. I grew up playing lacrosse, but I also loved musicals. I played Dungeons and Dragons. There's a lot of weird stuff in my past.
Okay.
I am a minority of one. And I want to make sure that my right to play Dungeons and Dragons, my right to enjoy musicals, all the things that make me different and unique, that's protected. And just because the majority, 51% of the people, vote against me, just because 60% of the people vote against me, I should still have my liberty to engage in the things that are my rights. And so Gary Johnson and Bill Weld are about protecting everybody's rights, recognizing that we are all minorities of one. Dr. King had a great statement where he said, a battle against injustice anywhere is a battle for justice everywhere. And we're talking about justice for all of us. You know, whether it's a group of 10 people, whether it's a group of 50 people, our rights should be protected to be individuals. Government shouldn't be forcing us to buy health care. It shouldn't be forcing us to pay an extra 25 cents to take Uber because government thinks that's a good idea. Government shouldn't be telling us who we marry. Government shouldn't be telling us whether or not marijuana is legal. Government is meant to be one thing, protecting our rights. Gary Johnson and Bill Weld represent that. Neither other candidate does.
Can you, thank you. Thanks. Two last questions before you go. Say one thing nice about Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton made so my uncle was head of the ACLU in Arkansas when Hillary Clinton was a lawyer there. And by all accounts, she was one of the most amazing lawyers in the country. She is clearly smart, capable, intelligent. There's no question in my mind about any of those things. However, her version of the country, her vision for the country, is one in which what she thinks is right happens. And that's not what government's about.
And now, try not to vomit. Say one thing nice about Trump.
He's an entrepreneur. Libertarians absolutely respect that. They respect people trying to work hard and trying to make money. And so, you know, I mean, well, you know what? He inherited millions of dollars, didn't he? He didn't really, he hustles. He tries to make money. I can always respect somebody who wants to make money. I would prefer that his methods for doing it were more legitimate than Trump University or Trump Steaks or Trump Airlines or any of the other failed businesses that he's been involved in.
All right, great. Thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure to be here, RJ.
So nice talking to you. All right, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. And when we come back, join us at the desk with John Teehan. See you soon, everybody.
Like Talk Show? Like us on Facebook and follow RJ on Twitter and Instagram. Go ahead, like and follow us. Do it now. Did you do it yet?
Hey. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Our next guest joining us here at the desk is the host of All Politics is Local right here on Milford TV. Look the show up on YouTube. It's on Milford TV. Watch it anytime. Everyone, please welcome to the show, John Teehan! Hey, John, welcome to the show. Take a seat, my friend.
Sure thing.
My God, welcome, welcome. All right, let me ask you, before we dive in, because you are the host of All Politics is Local.
Yes.
And that show is run by the Greater Blackstone Valley Dems. So
Yes,
you
it
are
is.
a very strong Democrat.
Very strong Democrat,
So
yes.
before we get talking about the main two candidates, let's talk about both Gary Johnson and Jill Stein.
Sure.
What are your overall opinions on them?
Jill Stein has done some stuff on her campaign that I really can't agree with. For one thing, she's come out very strongly against vaccines. Anybody that's an anti-vaxxer, to my mind, is just not a serious candidate for any office.
So she doesn't believe in vaccines.
She doesn't believe in vaccination.
Does she think it gives like the kids? What were they saying in California?
There's various conspiracy theories that have gone around for years that vaccines cause autism and all manner
But no
of other-
scientific proof for
There's
this.
no scientific proof. There's no causation. There's no correlation. There is
And
no.
she's a medical doctor?
I don't know if she's a medical doctor
I
or not.
think I should thought
But I know she's an anti-vaxxer, and I think that that is just reprehensible, and she has no business running for office.
Okay.
So that's my opinion of Jill Stein.
All right, now how about Gary Johnson?
Gary Johnson did a decent job when he was governor of, was it New Mexico?
New Mexico, yes.
New Mexico, yeah. He's a fringe candidate. At the end of the day, these guys that run third party generally don't get anywhere. On election day, people come home to the party that they belong to, or they vote for one of the two majors.
Gary Johnson's been called socially liberal while being physically conservative. Do you agree with some of his liberal social standpoints at all?
Certainly, yeah. The guy that was just here talking about him, I certainly agree with with putting marijuana on Schedule 0. There's no reason for the marijuana prohibition that's been out there for years. It's got to stop. Like you said, the war on drugs is a failure. What's her name? Nancy Reagan said people should just say no. But the comic Gallagher said, look, people are not going to just say no to something that cures PMS. It's just not going to happen. So, you know, the war on drugs has been a dismal failure. On the other hand, your last guest said that Social Security is a pyramid scheme. People who say things like that don't understand A, Social Security, or B, pyramid schemes, either or. Social Security is not a pyramid scheme. It's one of the most successful liberal programs in this country's history, and it's still going strong. A Republican just the other day put forth a bill in the House of Representatives to lift the cap on Social Security earnings from its current $118,500 to well over $300,000, meaning that the wealthy would pay more into the Social Security Trust Fund. The debt, surplus that Social Security accumulates is invested in U.S. Treasury bonds. When you talk about the national debt, a significant portion of that debt, probably about somewhere between 18 and 20% of that debt, is held by the Social Security Trust Fund. That money is being spent, yes, but it's being spent on infrastructure for this country. It's being spent on good things. So as people retire, that money will have to be paid, yes. And so somehow the government will have to raise taxes in order to do that. And one of the ways to do that is to do exactly what this Republican proposed, lift the cap, get more money into the system, and expand what you're giving to seniors and people on SSDI. Give them more money. When you give poor people money, it stimulates the economy. You look at things like, people say tax cuts stimulate the economy. Well, tax cuts are only marginally stimulative to the economy. For every dollar in tax cuts, you get about $1.02 of increased economic activity. For every dollar you spend on infrastructure in this country, you get $1.59 in increased economic activity. The best way to get increased economic activity is food stamps. For every dollar we give out in food stamps, we get $1.72 in increased economic activity. Social programs work. Social Security works. Social Security lifts people out of destitution in retirement. Prior to Social Security, the #1 cause of death amongst the elderly was exposure. They died. They froze to death in their homes because they had no money to heat their home with. Social Security fixed that. It's a massively successful program. It has to be expanded, not cut back.
Like I said, you're a strong Democrat, so we'll go to the Democrat side in just a moment.
Okay.
Right now, let's talk about the orange ape taking over the Republican Party. What the hell happened there? Because I remember last June when he announced it, when he came down the escalator of shame, he came out and said, I'm going to be president. Everyone just sat there and laughed.
Yep.
And now here we are in August, and I'm begging people not to vote for him. Dad! So, yeah.
It's amazing to me that Donald Trump has gotten as far as he has. It's a product of the real issue, I think, has been that for years the Republican Party has had a duplicitous nature. They've been courting their base with promises of rolling back Roe v. Wade and taking away abortion rights, women's reproductive health rights. At the same time, they want to eliminate government spending. They say that Grover Norquist famously wants to reduce the government in size to the point where he can drown it in the bathtub. If anybody wants to live in a libertarian paradise where there's no government, I invite you to go to Somalia, where there's an absolute libertarian paradise because there is no effective central government doing anything. That's where you have pirates, you have roving gangs, you have a mess. America is basically a socialist country. People say, decry the word socialism, but police protection, fire protection, roads, bridges, schools, all of those things are socialist in nature. I want to put up a bumper sticker that when people say, that they don't like socialism, I want to make a bumper sticker that says, don't like socialism? Get off our roads.
Okay.
Because we paid for those roads through taxation.
All right, so let's talk about socialism. A lot of people think that's a dirty word, and that's why a lot of people couldn't get behind Bernie because they thought he was a socialist or a communist or whatever their issue was. Can you separate the idea of a communist country like Soviet Union versus a socialist country like America as you think it is? Because it clearly is.
Well, we're not so much, we're a mix of capitalism and socialism in this country. We're not so much a socialist country like communism. And under the communist regime, everybody was supposed to make exactly the same amount of money, so there didn't seem to be much incentive for anybody to really work hard because they didn't have to work hard. Everybody was going to make the same no matter. So people became very lazy, and as a result, you couldn't even get toilet paper. There was famously lines in the street. People would form lines in the street because there was something at the other end. And people would get in that line and wait for it. They didn't even know what was at the other end, if they needed it or not. But they would wait for it because if they could get something, then perhaps they could trade it to somebody else who had what they needed. So yeah, communism collapsed under its own weight because they limited the amount of money that people could make through any kind of effort. So people didn't put forth any effort if they didn't have to. Here in America, we have really the mix of capitalism and socialism, where when you work hard, you get rewarded by having enough money to live well. And so, in America, it's a very different story. At the same time, we do spend money on government programs, and our government programs work. One of the things Ronald Reagan famously said was the scariest 9 words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Well, the government should help. As a Democrat, I believe that the government can and should be a force for good in people's lives, and that's really what I strive for.
Okay, so we talked about Trump. We talked a little bit about...
Well, we didn't talk enough about Trump. There's a lot to say about
He's
Trump.
on TV enough. Let's let CNN cover his big fat mouth for a little bit. So let's move on to Clinton now. Now, there are still a lot of Bernie Sanders folks who cannot get behind Hillary Clinton.
No, there's not.
You don't think so?
No, there's a lot of Bernie Sanders folks who are behind Clinton right now, probably about 80% of them.
So what's holding these other people back? Will they just plain old not vote for them?
There are a lot of people who just plain detest Hillary Clinton, and that's certainly that's their choice. But I look at there's really only 2 choices in this election. There's Hillary or there's Donald Trump. Okay. My brother George is a big fan of Donald Trump. He thinks that Trump is just the greatest thing ever, and he's going to be voting for him. And the way I look at it is I don't want my brother George sitting on the Supreme Court. And Trump will appoint someone who thinks just like my brother George to the Supreme Court, and I don't want that to happen. That's the last thing I want to see happen. I have a 24-year-old daughter who will live with that Supreme Court for the rest of her life, and I don't want that to happen to her. So the most important thing to me, the most important consideration in this election is the Supreme Court. It's likely that the next president will get to appoint 4, maybe even 5 justices to the Supreme Court, and I want Hillary Clinton doing that.
Okay. So I've seen a lot of polling out for the election, and the latest one that I saw was that even if Donald Trump won all the toss-up states, he'd still lose the election.
He'd still lose, right.
Where is his path to victory?
He doesn't have one.
He doesn't have one?
No, he does not have a path.
It's done now?
He just hired Steve Bannon from Breitbart News, and Kelly Conway is now his campaign manager. He had to accept the resignation, quote unquote, although it seemed like he was forced, of Paul Manafort.
That dude's fishy. What was he up to? Can you explain this whole Ukraine-Russian money thing?
No, I can't.
Okay.
It's
'Cause I don't get it.
it's beyond bizarre. And the hypocrisy of people on the right who still back Trump in light of all of these revelations. If Robbie Mook, Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, was found to have ties to a Ukrainian strongman and to have arranged political riots that involved throwing rocks and tipping over buses full of U.S. Marines, where would the outrage on the right would be apoplectic. And it's, there's just no outrage on the right for it because it's Trump. He's our guy. We gotta back him. The hypocrisy is astounding. I can't explain all of his connections into the Ukraine and Russia and everything else, but it's a nightmare. And I can't even believe that this guy was running the campaign for Donald Trump. Trump said that he only hires the best and the brightest. Was there any vetting there? Did he do any extreme vetting on his own campaign manager? It flies in the face of logic to me, the whole thing. It just really does. It's amazing.
What do you expect to see in the primetime debates? Because those are basically right around the corner. That's the next big step in this election.
I expect Trump to be Trump. That's why he's got Steve Bannon. The reason he has Steve Bannon and Kelly Conway now running his campaign is because he knows he's going to lose, and his whole aim is to have Trump TV. He wants to have a right-wing channel on TV to compete with Fox News for eyeballs, and that's where he's going. He's going to Trump TV. He's never going to win the election. If the election were held today, Hillary Clinton would get well over 300 electoral votes, well over. She's put Utah in play. What your prior guest was saying was that Johnson's doing well in Utah. Hillary's doing better. She's put Utah in play. She's put Georgia in play. She's got Arizona in play. She's got South Carolina in play. It's amazing to me what she's accomplished as far as the Electoral College is concerned. She started with basically a Democratic firewall of 240 electoral votes. She only had to win 30 to get there, to get the maximum, to get the majority of the electoral votes.
Are Republicans voting for Hillary Clinton?
Oh, there's a lot of them, yeah.
What's appealing about Hillary Clinton to Republicans?
She's not Donald Trump.
But do they really not like Trump enough that they would vote
that
for
much,
Hillary?
Yes. Yeah. The speechwriter who wrote the speech for the mother of the Benghazi victim who spoke at the RNC came out and backed Clinton 2 days ago. The speechwriter who wrote that speech for the RNC backed Clinton 2 days ago.
Would this be happening if the GOP had Ted Cruz or John Kasich or Marco Rubio at the top?
Ted Cruz is remarkably unlikable.
Nobody likes him. Even his colleagues in the Senate hate him.
Nobody likes Ted Cruz.
I love the best moment of the whole convention, him getting booed.
But Rubio perhaps would be having an easier time of it. John Kasich. Kasich has that moderate Republican label. If you look under the covers, it doesn't really stick. He's an extremist. But he does portray a moderate Republican, so it's hard to say. But with Trump, Trump being Trump is how he won the primaries, and he thinks that's how he's going to win the general election. Steve Bannon is going to double down on his appeal to the base strategy, but the base isn't going to win him the election.
All right. So we're almost out of time. Before we go, you want to play 5 questions?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, let's play 5 questions, everybody. Roll the intro.
All right,
yeah.
what do we got? Ooh, that's my brain.
That's your brain. That is your brain on drugs, I heard. We always start with geography. Geography's first.
Okay.
What is the capital of Greece?
Athens.
Athens. Correct, everybody. Yep.
I'm better than Google.
Love it. Love it. White wine or red wine? What's your preference?
My preference, this is an opinion. This is not a, I thought we were going to have facts here.
There's no such thing as facts.
I like a good Cabernet.
Okay.
So red.
Okay. Question number 3. Think of a Milford TV show. Don't tell me. Just think of it. Now think of another. Think of a third show. What was the third show you thought of?
The third show would have to be Kevin Rudna's show with the 30 Minutes with Tom Cruise.
30 Minutes with Tom Cruise. Great show. Question number 4. Do pineapples go on pizza?
No.
Thank
Absolutely
you.
not.
Thank you. Thank you. I can end it now.
My daughter
Big
daughter
debate.
likes
Big debate
pineapple on her
backstage
pizza.
today.
I don't. I
Okay. Question number 5. if Trump wins, which he won't, which country will you move to?
I'm thinking Belize because I don't think
Belize?
I don't think he knows where it is. So.
You know, I don't even know where Belize is. I like your
I do
reaction
that.
there. You might be on to something. John Teehan, everybody, give it up for him one more time.
All right.
Thank you at home for watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. Everyone who's out here tonight, thanks for coming out. I love you all. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you for coming. We're off in September. Our next live show is happening October 8th. It'll be my 21st birthday show. Big 21st celebration. I'll be drinking. We're going to have Maureen from Craft Roots here. We're going to be doing some beer testing. A bartender from the Tradesman's coming down. We're going to be making some cocktails. It's going to be some great fun. Please tune into that. And until then, I'll talk to you soon. Good night, everybody. Thank you, John, so much.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you.
buddy. Happy to be here.
Oh, my God.
That was
That's
fun.
the show.